Now let's have this conversation that we all have been looking forward to. Nana Agyei Baffour Awuah is MP for Manhyia South. He is as well Vice Chair, Subsidiary. I'm just going to give you properly that title so that I don't miss it. I know that he's been speaking a lot in Parliament, but what gives him that authority to speak more is what I'm just going to be telling you now. He's Vice Chair, Subsidiary Legislation Committee, and Member, Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament. Honourable, good morning. Thank you for gracing my chair this morning. How's your constituency doing?
By the grace of God, my constituency is good. And good morning to you and your cherished viewers. Constituency is good, by grace.
That's quite a big constituency in the Ashanti region.
It's big in terms of
weight and value.
Weight,
yeah,
but not size.
Okay.
Because it has apart from the traditional authority, it also has historical, serious political, historical background. And so it's always not a small shoe to wear, that I must acknowledge.
I must say that you've really risen up to the occasion.
Really?
Yes, of course. Quite a visible MP. What's new in the constituency, by the way?
So when you look at the constituency, I keep saying that from my learning in the Bible, it is what you have that you use in developing.
Yeah. And
I think that it's a constituency with very rich history, very rich culture. It's a constituency that you can leverage on tourism. And so I've decided to introduce what I call the Soloku Festival. So this Easter Monday, in Manhyia South, we are having the Soloku Festival.
Okay.
The Soloku Festival, if you know Soloku, is just brass band music. And people love it, particularly during funerals. I've decided to institutionalize it and make it a carnival, a street carnival, in the like of what happens in Takoradi. And also, if you know about the Notting Hill Carnival in England, the Quos have their Easter festivities, which draws to the Land, lot of Ghanaians from diverse backgrounds and those also from outside of Ghana. When you look at the Western region one, it also draws Ghanaians from different backgrounds. I'm looking at a festival that with time would also gain currency and would draw Ghanaians from all over Ghana that will come into the constituency, spend on the things that are sold in the constituency, patronize our culture, learn our history, and together would unite us as a people, not just within Kumasi and Ashanti region, but all over Ghana. Basically, integrating our diversity through culture and festival celebration.
Who is invited to this local festival?
Everybody. So basically the events are, we are going to have a street carnival, right, from Dichemso, where I was born and bred, through to CPC, Crowfrom CPC, through to Ashtown, and then we end up at Abbas Park. Abbas Park is known to be a political hotbed.
Okay.
Yes. Abbas Park is where most of the UP activities were held, including meetings and all that. And so we'll end up at Abbas Park. At Abbas Park, we are going to have a Soloku dance competition. It's going to involve Soloku groups from all over Kumasi, particularly the known areas, the areas that are known for Soloku, Asafo, Fantiniu Town, Oforikrom, Swame, Tafo, Pankrono, all those people, they will come and display and show
who's got the best Soloku moves.
Who's got the best Soloku moves. And then we are also going to have a cooking competition.
Oh, would you?
A cooking competition. Our women are going to show what is made, what they are made of in terms of their culinary skills. And then there will be a tug of war and other activities.
Oh, it's quite an eventful stuff.
Very, very eventful. And then we are looking at future events inculcating in it trade fairs so that our people will showcase some of the stuff they sell, because it's also a predominantly trading community.
Okay.
I mean, part of my constituency is almost now a market.
I see.
And so you give the people the opportunity to also showcase what they sell. Hopefully, this is going to result in people patronizing the businesses of the traders within the community. If you look at the Notting Hill Festival, for instance, it generates over £400 million a year and supports about 3,000 full-time employment. We have a very rich history in Manhyia South, as I said. If you look at Manhyia South, if you want the rich history of the Dankwa Buzia tradition, that's where you find it. Is the constituency of the likes of Nana Baffour Awuah, one of the originators or founders of the UP tradition. Is the constituency where somebody like Victor Usu used to live. Is the constituency where Amadou Baba, known for the deportation, who was a victim of the Aliens Compliance Order of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. That's his constituency. I think that we should be able to leverage on this to attract a lot of tourism into the constituency. And so when you go to a place like Manhyia, that is the seat of Otumfuo, the foremost constituent, if you go to his palace, there's the Manhyia Palace Museum that will showcase to you the rich Ashanti history and culture, right, dating back several centuries. I mean, it's said to be over 300 centuries. Now, when you come out of the palace and you walk through the Manhyia vicinity, it has its own history too, politically, right? And so this should be showcased. And so that when you come out of Manhyia, just like when you can be driven through the street of London and be shown the historical places in the city of London, so should a place like Manhyia be. And we are starting with this festival.
Okay.
In fact, plans are even far afoot for us to have a documentary on the history, political history of Manhyia. In fact, the discussion is ongoing with Paul Adubotre.
Okay.
And an aspect I've also discussed with another person. She will be focusing on the on how we live together, irrespective of our diverse background. Because next door, bordering on Otumfuo's palace, is Alaba, it's a Zongo community.
Okay.
So you would imagine how. But we've lived together for several years. And in Ghana Month, these are some of the things we should be showcasing.
Is Anglo Town in your constituency?
Anglo Town is not in my constituency. It's in Subin constituency.
Okay.
No, I think it's in Oforikrom or Subin constituency.
Okay.
And so these are some of the things we should be showcasing. How we have lived together, right? And sometimes I've heard people say that the UP tradition is Ashanti tradition. But when you have somebody like Amadou Baba, a non-Ashanti,
yes,
and very, very important figures within the Zongo community being part of the formation of the UP tradition, the evidence that it's an Ashanti tradition would not be supported. And we need to showcase this for Ghanaians to know that it is diversity, right? It's our integration within diversity that has made us who we are as a people.
I definitely look forward to this festival. Sounds like a really great plan. I look forward to seeing it in the constituency.
Yes.
So it's been quite a busy week in Parliament. In fact, post-Sona, Parliament has been very, 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 very busy. But let's start with the most pressing need, because it touches on the very need of the young Ghanaian man or woman watching me this morning. it will be the recruitment and matters arising. So over 500,000 people applied to join the security services. In fact, a little over 100,000 of them made it through medicals. 105,000 applicants made it through medicals. And the obvious truth is that they only have available slots they can only take on about 5,000 applicants. I see that the minorities pushed back on the process. They've pushed back on where we've come from and where we are today, and also talked about employment, because you say that is a much bigger problem. Let me hear you.
As a politician, when discussing this issue, I can imagine that you would want me to take it from the perspective of the failings of the government. It's rich because it puts us in good stead. However, I would like to take it from a bigger perspective, which is that we are really a nation in crisis. And it's unfortunate that politicians, we are taking advantage of the situation without a solution to it. Now, when you campaign to win political power with the hope of creating employment for the teeming youth. Indeed, when President Mahama appeared before Parliament in his inaugural State of the Nation's address, he informed the House that we have about 2 million Ghanaians who are unemployed. Let's not forget that just when President Mahama left office in the year 2017, it was acknowledged that indeed unemployment among the youth was a crisis. It was during this time that some Ghanaian youth even formed an organization called Unemployed Graduate Association. When the MPP took office, in its quest to manage the situation, that is when they introduced that program.
24-hour economy.
No, the MPP, is it?
NAPCO?
NAPCO. We introduced NAPCO, trying to manage the situation. And in excess of 800,000 youth subscribed to it, with a long-term view of being absorbed into the economy. Then post-COVID, we had crisis and we had to go to the IMF. And because of that, we needed to, put a hold on NAPCO. So clearly, the crisis of unemployed youth persists, right? President Mahama, as I said, came to Parliament and said we have 2 million Ghanaians who are unemployed. Therefore, when you come to office and you say that you are going to recruit people into the security agencies, particularly expanding the age range within which people could be recruited into the security service, right, from 25 years to 35 years, you raise the hopes of the people, right, that a lot more people than before would be recruited into the security service. The people had every reason to have that expectation, not just because of the extension of the age range, but also because of the promise of the 24-hour economy, where they were promised that there is going to be 3 shifts, right? There's going to be 3 shifts. And so they were expecting that if you have 5,000 spaces available, then we are likely to have 15,000 spaces available. Bearing in mind the extension of the age range, because if you don't have spaces, why the need to extend the age limit from 25 to 35? The moment you extend it, you are likely to cover more people than before, okay? The moment you promise that you are going to recruit, you are going to do 3 shifts, then there is also the expectation, an increased expectation, that you are going to recruit more people than before. And so it wasn't surprising that about 500,000 people applied for that position, for the vacancies. 500,000. The government charged 200 cedis, I understand, from each applicant. That, for me, is very, very unfortunate. It looks like we're exploiting the vulnerability of the Ghanaian youth.
When I just pulled out the document on the 24-hour economy, when they launched it, they had about 8 thematic areas. And just a casual look at it, I do not see where the security sector fits in.
So check the NDC's manifesto.
Okay.
The document on the 24-hour economy was post the elections of the NDC. We are looking at the manifesto of the NDC, the promises they sold to the Ghanaian youth, for which reason they had teaming of them following them. It's the manifesto and not the 24-hour economy. The 24-hour economy was post the elections.
Okay.
And so the circumstance was such that the expectation of the Ghanaian had not only been nurtured, right? It had not only been nurtured to expect that the NDC was going to recruit a lot of people into our security agencies.
If you break it down and if I understand you, you'd say that a lot more people applied to be part of the security agencies because they had carried forward the perception of the 24-hour economy.
They had been given
expectation that it will find expression here. Do you think that they were thinking out of context? Or was it a feasible thing that a government could do, that it would ration security agency?
Look, President Mahama had been president before. It was very easy for the Ghanaian youth to accept his promises. This man had been president before. He'd been thrown out. Now he's telling you, I've been there before. This is possible. I can do it. That's a legitimate expectation you have created in the Ghanaian youth, right? But as I said, I wouldn't want to restrict myself to it. I wanted to highlight what the NDC had done to the Ghanaian youth. But we need to look at the bigger picture. What is the bigger picture? The bigger picture is that our democracy as it is not delivering the expectations of the youth. It's not delivering the expectations of the youth. It's not making our leaders accountable to the youth in terms of the promises they deliver. And so what has happened? Who are you to hold account? The accountability may be in Parliament. How do you hold them account? You hold them account by filing questions. Who determines that the question will be admitted? The Speaker. If he decides that it will not be admitted, there will be no accountability. Right? Filing of statement. If he decides that the statement will not be delivered, there will be no accountability. And so the time has come that for the sustainability of our democracy, right, in making sure that it's more progressive, it's more developmental oriented, it meets the expectations of the people, there's a two-way approach. Making government more accountable so that government will see the urgency to deliver on its promises. Otherwise, we will continue to make promises to obtain or acquire political power and not meet the expectations of the people. That, for me, is the biggest risk to our democracy.
So you say two-way approach, making
Yes.
government accountable. One, you have just let me in on how that can be done in Parliament. Which other ways?
I'm saying that two-way approach. The first approach is making government accountable.
Yeah.
Right? And the second approach is making government know that it is voted into power for a purpose. And that purpose is not just coming into office, right, and assuming the office of the president like a trophy. Look, if you have voted a president of Ghana, my sister, in fact, I think that elaborate inauguration we shouldn't do it. There's a country where when you have voted a president and you assume office, if the prices of cocoa on the world market drop, the country is in crisis. If the prices of gold drop, the country is in crisis. Worst of it, in respect of oil, if the prices goes up, we are in crisis. If it comes down, we are in crisis. Because if it comes down, it means shortfall in government revenue. If it goes up, it means hardship on the ordinary Ghanaian.
Is that not why they want to move the import cover to 15 months at least, to cushion us when there are issues like this?
That is not, yes, it's good. It is good. But I'm saying that I'm saying that if you are voted the president of a nation like this, it is not a trophy to be held and shown to the world. It's actually a call to work. Yeah. It is a call to duty. And so that elaborate inauguration we even do, it's about time we look at it. Because it puts our presidents in a honeymoon mood. And all of you think that, yes, the president has just come to office, we should leave the president, there's no need for criticism. The first year, the seeds the president sow or refuses to sow, those seeds, they are the ones that will bear fruit. And if he doesn't sow any seeds, no fruit will be born. And so we need to be critical from day one. I'm one of the people who don't subscribe to this honeymoon thing. You have a tenure of 4 years. From day one, government is putting in place his policies, he's making appointments. We should be able to provide constructive criticisms to shape it. But most Ghanaians think that for that period, leave the government.
What has gone wrong with the security recruitment? How we have done it in the past, how we're doing it today, and how we'll do it tomorrow?
You are looking at the manner. You are looking at the manner. That is procedural.
Yeah.
I am looking at the number of Ghanaian youth who are targeting security recruitment.
I want us to talk about procedural, then we'll go to the substance of it, where at least we have the data we can start with, right? Mm-hmm. The data is that 500 young people... 500,000. Is
that not scary?
That's like a huge number.
It's not scary.
Because then, if we admit that there's a problem with the procedure or there's no problem, then we can now talk about the bigger picture, right?
Wait. The procedure. I'll be happy to have a more transparent procedure where every Ghanaian youth who applies is recruited on merit-based, right? But if you don't solve the bigger problem, we have 500,000 Ghanaian youth today. Next year, you have 1 million Ghanaian youth. It tells you that the real sectors of the economy is not absorbing the unemployed Ghanaian. Year in, year out, people are graduating from universities. And so it's adding on. So subtract 5,500 from 500,000. How many?
This is over 400,000.
Over 400. So we are not solving our basic unemployment issues, right? Previously, we had a very vibrant financial sector, which was absorbing some of them. We had a vibrant telecommunications sector, which was also absorbing some of these people. So we need to find ways to grow the economy of this country such that it will create real jobs, sustainable jobs, more secure jobs for the Ghanaian youth. Otherwise, we are going to be in crisis. That's all I'm saying.
Year in, year out, Nana Agyei, year in, year out, what has been the biggest challenge for governments to create jobs?
Year in, year out, I think we have to be deliberate about it. Every country has a cycle, economic cycle. It will come to an end at some point. And that is when you hear recession in the Western world. You see, government deliberately puts in place policies, okay, that will activate various sectors of the economy. After a while, about 10, 20 years maximum, there's likely to be a bust. And so you need to think of ways by which you are going to activate that again. Okay? And so that is what we have failed to do as a country. From the President Kufuor era, we didn't have as many banks as we came to have. If your memory would serve you right, if you can check the records. We didn't have as many savings and loans companies as we came to have. We didn't have as many microfinance companies as we came to have. Okay? Clearly, the cycle came to an end. That cycle has ended. We need to do something new. What are we doing? I understand, I appreciate the president's effort, for instance, in the construction industry, what he calls the big push. But the big push will not be sufficient to guarantee Ghanaian youth, particularly our university graduate jobs. It's likely to, guarantee a lot more labor work, and it was acknowledged in the budget that was presented to us in Parliament. But we need to think outside of the box and create new opportunities for the Ghanaian youth. We need to think outside of the box. Government must, as a matter of necessity, use his budget to create it. Create opportunities for the Ghanaian youth. And that is why, for instance, today, the NDC supporters, they are complaining because they are not getting the jobs, the much needed jobs that they were promised. And it's likely to be so, and it's going to reflect in the manner in which they are going to suffer apathy, is going to reflect. And that has become a cycle. And so we need to create the needed jobs.
When you envisage government creating jobs, what does it look like in your memory?
I envisage government creating the necessary atmosphere, the necessary environment for the private sector to create the jobs.
Do they have that now?
I think we are, in terms of the management of the economy, on paper, it's beginning to look good. But you see, we are also at risk of some of these external happenings. And that is why I said, when you are a government in the Republic of Ghana, it is not a job that should be attended to with fanfare. You need to get down and work, right? Because, look, there is a lot of crisis. It's not just the books looking good. It's the Ghanaian youth looking for a job.
You are in Parliament. Maybe I can get some information from you. This government touts the 24-hour economy, which you have just passed a bill to create an authority that will regulate that area. It also talks about the National Apprenticeship Program. It also talks about the Ghana Skills Jobs Initiative, no fee stress policy for first-year students, creation of Ministry of Youth and Development Empowerment, and among others, Technology and Digital Skill Program. Let me see if I have more. These are some of the few things they say that they will do for the young people.
They say they will do. Let's take the 24-hour economy, for instance. The 24-hour economy, my sister, all they have come to do is to bring a law to Parliament to set up a secretariat.
Is that not where it starts? But where would you rather have
what were we promised? We're not promised the secretariat. We're promised one job, 3 shifts. Do you need a secretariat to do that? In any event, will Joy FM simply do 3 shifts because government says it's going to support it financially? Joy FM will do 3 shifts because there is demand. And so clearly it's misdiagnosis of the Ghanaian problem. You see, I sit back and I watch the promises which were made. Clearly, government has misdiagnosed the problems, right? And for me, I'm not surprised that they are doing more of the same. They are doing more of the same, the very things they criticized, because they didn't have a plan, right? Indeed, they had no plan to solve the real problems of this country. The unemployment situation, there was no plan. They knew that the 24-hour economy was just a slogan, which was thrown in by the president, and subsequently somebody tried fashioning something out to make sense out of it, which remains in serious deficit till date. And so, in my humble view, there's serious misdiagnosis. Our problem has to do with growth of the private sector. Government cannot, on its own, employ a lot of our people. Today, in trying to make up for the unemployment situation within their own party, they've embarked on massive recruitments. Go to the Bank of Ghana, they are recruiting. Go to various state institutions, agencies in particular, the SOEs, they are recruiting in lots of people.
Even for the SOEs that were in red, that were not making...
You can check. I mean, you can check. They are recruiting a lot of people to satisfy their base. But look, this is unsustainable. You are only bloating the public purse. You are going to, in the long term, increase government payroll. And that is going to create, is going to restrict government in terms of the financial space to pursue other developmental programs. You
say what? They should rather create a very healthy environment for the private sector.
For the private sector. The jobs are created by the private sector. And government will have to create the enabling environment for the private sector to grow. I'll give you an example. I've heard, for instance, the supposed procurement, for instance, at the gold board.
Gold board.
Good. Now, if you create the environment for a competitive tender, it creates the opportunity for the private sector to grow. The private sector will not just grow in revenue, it will also grow in capacity, to the extent that you will be able to move if you are deliberate, you'll be able to move to other African countries, particularly the West African countries, right, to see how best your people can take advantage of their system and grow. But if you restrict it and, limit it to cronyism, what happens is that when the government is out of power, that crony who you are pushing business to today might not get business in the next administration, because the culture we have developed is cronyism, and invariably it deprives the private sector of real growth. And so our businesses now will be limited to dispensations, right? And more or less, we are breeding political entrepreneurs. We need to breed real businessmen. Don't get me wrong. It will take government, it will take the intervention of government to grow the private sector. And so whether you like it or not, you are likely to find people who are connected to businesses that are linked to a particular government.
By all means.
Getting businesses. However, even that, allow for competitive tender so that you grow them not just financially, but in terms of capacity. Because it is the capacity which is transferable. It is the capacity which is going to tout in getting other businesses elsewhere. But if you limit it to cronyism, that becomes your only qualification for acquiring or obtaining government business.
Well, in bringing the matter home, whatever it is, I envisage that it may take time for a government to want to create the environments for private companies so that they can be able to absorb the huge deficit of young people who do not have jobs. But starting with this data, what are you suggesting the government would do with this numbers of people who wanted to go into the security service? Because it's back to what you're saying.
Government,
if somebody had a job.
For starters, I think that government should be deliberate in using its budget to do more to do procurement in Ghana. Government should be deliberate in making sure that for a given year, it is procuring more from the Ghanaian, things that are manufactured or produced in Ghana. By so doing, they are going to expand. I don't think that within 3-4 years we'll be able to clear all this. But the ripple effect of such procurements is likely to grow other businesses that will absorb these people. I'll give you an example. When President Kufuor took office and we subscribed to the HIPIC initiative, that for me is the best evidence available. When we subscribed to the HIPIC initiative, it meant that we were not spending money borrowing from outside. We spent a lot of money here through construction activities and so on and so forth, and investing in other sectors of the economy. That's why I said the president's investment in construction is good, but we need to look at other sectors of the economy. The ripple effect were the growth in the financial institutions you saw, because there was a lot of money in the system. And when there's a lot of money in the system, they have to look for a place to keep them. And as a matter of necessity, you are going to have banks who will keep these money. They are going to have other tiers of financial institutions. These financial institutions will then lend to businessmen who will also create other opportunities within the system that will absorb the teeming youth coming from our places of learning. And so we need to be deliberate. So I think that government should spend more of its budget, right,
on internal procurement.
On procuring from Ghana things that are.
But do we have that capacity?
This year,
I recall earlier this year or late last year when we're having conversations with the Peasants Farmers Association or other grain association leaders, and then we asked, they have been calling that government would ban importations of certain grains. But when you engage experts, they also say that true, if government bans it 100%, we'll not be able to meet the demand internally. In one breath, I hear that we have the capacity. In another breath, they say when they do a reality check, we do not have that capacity. So some form of importation will be done. Whilst you are answering that question, I've heard you also talk about the financial sector quite largely a few times since you've been sitting here. Not to put the blame on the doorstep of any government, would you say that the financial or the banking sector cleanup that happened under the NPP regime was a good thing to do? Has it come back to bite us in any way? These are two questions.
You said the financial sector?
Two questions. First would be that, do we genuinely have the capacity if we want to procure internally in this country so that we don't have to be purchasing from outside? Do we have the capacity?
So what you have, you procure it. What you don't have, you import.
Okay.
And that for me is the reason why the manifesto which was presented by Dr. Bawumia in the 2024 elections, I loved it. Because he promised that he was going to make sure that in our budget, we would only import what we only procure from outside what is not manufactured or produced in Ghana. That is the way to go. And so, even though it's Dr. Bawumia's budget, I don't think it hurts if this government borrows it. For me, it is the way to go.
Does this government's budget suggest that they're going to be importing largely?
Well, if you have 500,000 Ghanaian youth struggling to get 5,500 security jobs, you don't budget 13 billion cedis over a 4-year period to procure, to retool the army or to procure aircraft. And so if you need aircraft, if you need 4 aircraft, you can procure 2 in the short to medium term and hope that the economy gets better and do the rest in the future.
Okay.
And so if you don't do that, if you do that, let's say you plan to spend 13 billion over 4 years, right? And you decide that, look, let me spend rather 50%, and then in the next 4 years, let me pump the 7.5 billion cedis into the Ghanaian economy. It will make a lot of difference.
Okay. I asked also about the finance sector, because you've made reference to it a few times, and not to shift to blame. I see that this morning your conversation is really not to blame any government or anything. It's just once in a while you want to take stock. Some decisions that we've taken in the past, would you say that it's come to hurt us or it's come to benefit us? Case in point is the financial cleanup that happened under the NPP regime.
I think it could have been different.
It could have been different.
It could have been different.
How could it have been?
I think that largely we could have looked at the state investing in most of these financial institutions and reducing the shareholders of the private individuals who own them with a view to protecting jobs. So we shouldn't have just looked at protecting the depositors. We should have also looked at protecting the jobs and potential investment that these institutions could be making in the long term. I think on hindsight, it could have been better.
Okay. I am certain that a young person watching me this morning who probably applied to be part of the security agencies, and that conversation that has come up to say that they should refund the application fees, do you subscribe to that?
I have no doubt in my mind it's a ripoff. Why should I pay to serve in the security agencies? Being in the security agencies in and of itself is a sacrificial job. You sacrifice to serve in a security agency of your country. Why should you pay? I mean, assuming that the crisis or the situation we find ourselves had not even happened, nobody should pay. It is wrong. If it happens in MPP, it is wrong. If it happens in NDC, it is wrong. Security agency job is a sacrificial job. It is the height of sacrifice that anybody can think of that he would want to give to his country. You can die in the line of duty. You can become maimed in the line of duty. And so this is real sacrifice. standing between danger and your country, the people of your country. That's all it means. And so why should anybody pay to join the security agency?
I hear that there's a thing called protocol. Did you have some?
Well, I don't know about what you are talking about. I don't know about any protocol.
Or maybe in a better way, or in a better description, the getting picked, you're closer to getting picked if you're MP or a member of your parliament leads
Whether
the charge
I
for you.
got some or I didn't get some, the view I hold is that let's create a more transparent system. Let's create a more transparent system. If you create a more transparent system, I'm sure the young men in my constituency who applied, if they go through the system and they know that this is more transparent, this is more accountable, and they don't get recruited, they will be satisfied.
You've discussed the bigger picture, some of the solutions you think as a country we should look at for the bigger picture. Just this more transparent system, you're not the first person I'm hearing you say this. What will a more transparent system look like in terms of this recruitment?
A more transparent
what would it
system
look like?
is a merit-based system.
Okay.
Where irrespective of color, irrespective of party affiliation, irrespective of tribal affiliation, you are still likely to be picked, right, because of the system put in place.
But now it's digital, and I don't know whether there's a part of it that lets you tell whether you belong to a political party or not, or there's a way they're able to tell.
And so then the issue about a more transparent system, right, may not be an issue as much as the numbers. However, the people who have gone through it don't know the basis for which some of the responses they got, right, came about.
Okay.
For instance, somebody is said to have failed the exams, and the person doesn't understand why he failed the exams. Is he going to receive accountability? If he doesn't receive accountability, then the system is not transparent. And so ordinarily, if you have a digital system, you would think that it's transparent. But a digital system that doesn't provide accountability is not transparent.
Okay.
Because the circumstance under which certain results came about, the person who is going through it, he's not receiving reasons. And so there's no accountability. It still makes it opaque.
Well, I'm tempted to ask whether you're for the legal reform education system. Why? We're not discussing that, but because I know that if you were taking an exam, there's a declaration form that you sign that you really cannot you cannot, after the exam, you can't ask why you had the score, no questions asked. In that way, if I take a cue from what you mean by transparency and accountability, will all students who took exam for law school, entrance exam, who cannot ask or know why they were not picked, would you agree that that's also not transparent? A
public system must deliver accountability, must deliver transparency.
Okay.
That is the way by which you nurture love for country and hope for many.
The last time I saw you in Parliament, you were quite energetic about the presentation by the Deputy Finance Minister on the RES, or end-of-year payables. And you described that document as a propaganda tool. Why?
We need to distinguish between the statement that was presented by the Deputy Minister and the report. There are two different documents.
Okay.
The Auditor General's report on public finances is a property of Parliament. And so if you have gone to conduct an audit of public finances in any shape or form, and you want to inform Parliament, lay the report before Parliament and let Parliament debate it consistent with Article 187 of the Constitution and the necessary referral or steps made by Parliament. But you choose to present to Parliament a statement on the report, and you are holding the report, right? Why would you want to present a statement and not a report? Because the report will expose what you are holding. The report would show explanations given by the auditees, the persons that were audited. And so if the person that was audited makes an admission, he will explain to us why what has been complained of by the Auditor General happened. It might make sense or it might not make sense, right? And so if you genuinely think that there is a problem with the report really is damning, lay the report itself. Your statement is likely not to include explanations by the auditees. And so we'll not have the full picture.
So you rather debate the report, not the statements?
Let's debate the report and not the statement.
Of course, I don't know the processes in Parliament. You know it better. What's the difficulty if the minister does not present the report? What can Parliament do to demand the report?
So what he was doing was to come and tell Ghanaians about so-called losses, when in fact the report itself would have shown that perhaps there was no loss. The report itself would have shown if there was a loss, who must have occasioned it. The person who must have occasioned it may not even be a politician or affiliated to the New Patriotic Party. But the statement will not contain the necessary responses. And so in presenting the statement, the people then get the opportunity to comment on it. Under the Nana Agyei Baffour Awuah Dr. Bawumia administration, this amount of money was paid, this amount of money was done, this is what happened, right? Whereas when you go into the report itself, you're likely to find a different picture. Why are you likely to find a different picture? You're likely to find a different picture because the report itself says that it's an arrears. What is arrears? People who consider or who think that government is indebted to them, making a claim. And so, MFA, as we sit here, we are likely to have people making claims on you. Don't you have people making claims on you?
All the time.
I mean, you are doing business, so people make claims on you. When they make claims on you, some of the claims, you are likely to say that this one I don't owe, this one I owe. You understand? Okay. And so if you accept liability for a particular claim and reject liability for another claim, should that be a problem? Because it is not an MPP person, a member of the MPP, who must have made those claims. Those claims are made by third party who are contractors supplying goods and services to government, providing certain services to government, right? And when they have done that, they are likely to come to you and make demand for their money because there's been change of government. When they come, it is the most prudent thing to do, right, to verify their claims. And when you verify their claims and the claims are not justifiable, you reject them. That shouldn't be news. But
if the Auditor General's report is a public document and the minister is supposed to at least make the report public or by providing it to you, if he doesn't, which other ways can you acquire that document and speak to it for people like us who want to understand it? People watching us today.
So Parliament is a house of records. We practice the public financial management system. What it means is that the Auditor General's report is supposed to come to Parliament for debate.
In whatever form. They themed this one as a special audit. It's not the regular auditor's report.
What is the special audit supposed to do?
The finance minister took a keen
interest. First and foremost, understand it from this principle very respectfully. Under the Constitution of Ghana, right, the holder of the public purse is Parliament.
Right.
That is why a budget is brought to Parliament for approval. We hold the public purse. And so you come to us and then you say to Parliament that this year I want to spend X amount of money on the following. We debate it and we give it to you. There's the statutory audit, which is what the Auditor General does under Article 1872 or 3 of the 1992 Constitution. That is the annual audit. Okay? And when it is done, it's brought to Parliament for us to know how the money which was given out was spent. And those that were generated internally and so on and so forth, they were all spent. Now, we are also entitled to know our debt position as a country. Parliament is entitled to know our debt position. And so when this government took over, one of the outstanding issues was our debt position, our total debt as a country, right? And then the issue came up that, look, do verification so that we can know our debt position. And when the Minister for Finance came to Parliament, he did inform us that he was taking these steps to enable us to know the debt position.
Yeah.
So if you have gone to do the audit, it's to whose benefit? It's not just to the Minister of Finance's benefit. It's to the benefit of Parliament, right? If it is in good faith, if you want us to look at it in good faith and not propaganda, put the report before Parliament. Parliament will now be in a position to see the Auditor General's opinion. Parliament will be in a position to see the responses of the auditees, right? From the management response to reaction to the report during the exit meeting, so that we will know that this is the situation. But if you go and take portions of the report without the responses of the auditees and present them to Parliament for us to comment on them, do you think you are being fair to us? You are not being fair to us, because then we don't have a full picture. Because when you present the statement to Parliament, the Speaker is likely to make a referral. Mm-hmm. So the Speaker is only making a referral of a partial information.
As it stands now, it has been referred to the Public Accounts Committee. With my understanding now, is it the portions or the statements that the Minister made in Parliament that has been referred to Public Accounts Committee, or by the time it gets to the Public Accounts Committee, it would be going with the full details?
What has been referred to the Public Accounts Committee is the statement.
Is the statement.
So what are you...
Will the Public Accounts Committee be interested in the full report? So or they would work with just
the Public Accounts Committee should be working with the report.
Which is very accessible, would it not be? I envisage how difficult that will be.
There's a procedure for laying documents in Parliament, right? Particularly the Auditor General's report.
Okay.
It must be laid. It must be debated. The necessary referral made. In this particular case, it is the statement which was made. And why would you make a statement when the report is there? Why?
I will be shocked to my bone if the minister, represented by the deputy minister, went to Parliament, made such statement, and then later would have to go to the report and they're not verifiable. These are just numbers thrown to us. Tell me, is this possible? Can this happen?
Then you should be shocked to your bone. Because it is not, you see, the figures themselves don't tell a conclusive story.
I agree with you.
You agree with me? Mm-hmm. So the state figures themselves may have been things the Auditor General may have seen. But the Auditor General's report will tell you whether or not he was also satisfied with the explanation given. Right? And if the report itself is debated, you would have gotten that. If indeed what the minister came to read was in the report and constituted the full picture of the report, why didn't he present the report itself?
What are some of the challenges we are likely to face if what they are going to be investigating or probing at the Public Accounts Committee is just the statements? What likely are we going to be?
Because audit reports are supposed to help us improve our public financial management systems.
Absolutely.
And so if it is just what the minister has presented, we wouldn't have a full picture of what has transpired. But if we look at if it is the entirety of the report, Parliament, as the holder of the public purse, will now know the full malice that's happening in the various agencies, and will now come up with various mechanisms to improve upon the system, right?
So that procedurally we're not in a fix. How can this be corrected?
So it is not just a problem of procedure. It is not just because people think that we are latching on technicalities. We are not latching on technicalities. We are simply saying that, give us everything. Let's look at it. If we look at it and it is as you have presented, right, we will deal with it. Look,
So the minority simply request for the full report? Could you?
We can.
Would you?
We can.
And would you?
We can. It's something that we will consider. But let me say this to you. We need to appreciate something. When people come out to say X amount of money has been lost to the state, somebody has paid money, and so on and so forth, very respectfully, with all humility, there's no way I'll defend the person who has stolen from the state. There's no way anybody in the minority would make such a defense. We have to look beyond the commission of a crime to improve it upon systems in place to avoid the reoccurrence of such happenings. Because since 2001, we've been going through this phase anytime there's a transition. In 2017, 2018, there was a similar audit.
Occasioned by the then finance minister?
Occasioned by the then finance minister of arrears, which is legitimate to verify and confirm, indeed, liabilities. It's very legitimate, very, very good, very reasonable that our finance ministers are doing that. However, to enable us put in place better systems, we should always have the full picture of the audit, because Parliament will now take steps to ensure that systems are improved upon, because there are already in place systems for checking some of these things and preventing their happening. And that is why putting before Parliament the full systems, the full audit helps. Because, look, no payment will be made in the public financial space until it's been audited by the internal auditor before the payment. Mm-hmm. And so if there is an allegation that payment has been made to somebody, the question will be, did it go through the internal auditor? If it didn't go through the internal auditor, the person clearly breached internal procedure, and that person must be dealt with by the rules and regulations in place in that organization. And we shouldn't be, the moment you politicize it, the moment you make it partisan, you are likely to have political parties coming to defend themselves. And the corporates who may still find themselves in such institutions are likely to go unpunished. And it's going to reoccur year in, year out. These are the things we need to prevent. And that's why we are saying that, look, this is propaganda. Avoid that. Put the report before the House, because it is our property.
And that's why I'm also asking that the duty is not just lying on the majority or the finance minister. You've also got a duty to want to request for that report.
If you want to request it, we can request it through the right to information.
Yes.
But it is not for me to put it before Parliament. If I put it before Parliament, the Speaker is not going to accept it.
Why?
There's a procedure by which it comes to Parliament. Parliament is a house of procedure. Auditor General's report has a procedure by which it comes to Parliament. We debate it. After the debate, it becomes conclusive.
Do you envisage a stalemate at the Public Accounts Committee because of this same procedure?
I will not be surprised.
I see. I was hoping we can cover a lot more, but unfortunately my time is up already.
But let me say this before I go. In this year's State of the Nation's address, the President came to Parliament and said that he was bringing a law, that law which would ensure transparency and accountability in the sale or disposal of state interest in various entities. The President is here to bring that law, but the embargo which was placed on the state sale of state land has been lifted. The President is here to bring that law, but today we hear that the interest of the state in diamond mines is being offloaded to persons who are connected to the President. Is the President waiting for certain transactions to be done before he brings that law to Parliament? Is it what the President is waiting for? Because that would be, opening, allowing the horse to bolt, right? Because if you really mean what you are saying, you will not lift the ban until the law has been put in place. Diamond Mines has reverted to the state. It now belongs to the state. When Diamond Mines was returned to the state, the issue was whether or not the state wanted to dispose it off. At the time, we were told that there was no intention to dispose it of. Now, if it so happens that the state wants to dispose it of, it should be by way of competitive bidding, so that there will be value. The state will acquire real value instead of being sold like a piece of toffee or chocolate. I think that the president will serve this country well in that regard. Otherwise, what we are seeing is more of the status quo, which made Ghanaians angry, and it puts our democracy at risk. That's what I want to.
Well, thank you so much for grazing my seat. So earlier we had a message from Eugene Boakye MP, Eugene Boakye Entry, who is contesting for the NPP's General Secretary a bit later, saying that he's doing the watching.
Okay.
And a good morning to you as well for doing the watching, Eugene.
That's my big brother.
That's your big brother, right? Okay, then I can understand why he rarely will test. So it's good to see a message from you. And I saw you have a message from a gentleman called Lawrence Kuwanu, who says that, well, I like this man. He's quite a good lawyer by all standards. I'm sure that we'll pick up on our conversation. Sure. We had a lot more to talk about.
Me.
Thank you so much. Please stay. We'll wrap the show shortly.